Hey preppers, welcome to Goshen Prepping. All kinds of things in the news we need to prepare for, including World War III. Russia, all kinds of stuff happening there, heading to Cuba. It's not even just that. Is this all just hyperbole? Is it simply blown out of proportion from MSM? It may be. I want to show you a couple articles. The terrifying moment Putin's bomber breaches NATO airspace by over a mile after Kiev downs a Su-57 jet with suspected territorial violation. Finland released a statement saying Putin's bombers have breached its airspace during a recent military exercise. These kind of articles are becoming commonplace. But when we see a flotilla of ships heading to Cuba, is this simply just another Russian ploy? This sums it up very clearly. Russia flexes military muscle with nuclear-capable submarine en route to Cuba, and the U.S. gets jittery. So Finland has its airspace breached. In the United States, we see Russian ships and a nuclear submarine off our coast. We see this in mainstream media. And the fact that this article actually came out of India, mind you, says that the U.S. gets jittery. Are we getting jittery? Are we blowing this out of proportion? I've seen this both on mainstream media and YouTube channels alike, that they're basically raising all these alarms. Because it's being watched very carefully. U.S. submarine hunters converge on the Russia flotilla off Florida. Some of these ships loitered outside the U.S. territorial waters in hours-long flights near the Florida Straits, relieving one another to ensure nonstop surveillance. In other words, we're watching them to see what's going on. And as mainstream media really takes off with this, you can see that a cruise ship passenger snaps pictures of the Russia warships headed to Cuba for an official visit. So let me explain, first of all, why this is so alarming to people. And I'll explain my reaction to it too. It's simple as this. Russia was a huge, the center of a huge Soviet empire. And having these type of things, basically breaching airspace, having their ships off our coast, etc., was very commonplace during the Cold War. It happened all the time. And it's simply just a cat and mouse. It's simply a game of chess. Our subs follow their subs follow our subs, and the game continues. But of course, the Soviet Union fell and collapsed, and the countries went independent, and now we're seeing a reemergence of the Soviet Union, especially a reemergence of basically these tactics of sending ships out. All right, so mainstream media wants this. Mainstream media plays into this. Mainstream media is really pushing this agenda to want to have war with Russia. I'm not going to get into the reason why. I'm sure you can speculate or even know why. That's not the point for us preppers. As preppers, we need to prepare for this and be ready for World War III, for all the things that are coming. We need to stockpile. We need to get ready for fuel rationing. It is going to be a nightmare for us. So why it's happening? Not as important as us getting ready. But this whole thing simply is just a matter of hyperbole. Let me explain. Mainstream media, oh no, look, there's Russian ships and a Russian nuclear sub off our coast. When we see Russian ships and a Russian nuclear sub off our coast, that's not the worry part. When we see a Russian sub off our coast, let me put it this way. Russia didn't simply just stealthily send these ships over. They announced it and said, hey, look what we're doing, America. We're sending these ships off your coast. Ha, ha, ha. Because the Cuban Missile Crisis, we worried about nuclear missiles parked 90 miles south of Florida. But, everybody thinks that the Cuban Missile Crisis basically ended this huge nuclear standoff. Not at all. Both the United States and Russia simply just took those nuclear missiles, made it so they're not seen anymore by putting them in submarines. Now we have submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs. And these missiles have been parked off our coast even closer than 90 miles ever since then. That's not a problem because we have this nuclear standoff where we know if we launch our missiles at Russia, they'll launch at us and vice versa. So basically, it's been a deterrent so we will not annihilate one another. So what people see who are following along with this mainstream media narrative is this. Oh, Russia's provocating. Russia's always provocating. That's what they do. This is not a huge thing. For example, Russia says, hey, we're going to send these ships over. Watch these ships over here. When they don't tell you about the numerous submarines already off our coast, closer than 90 miles, because they're still in international waters, and those are the ones you have to worry about. Or do we? We don't. The United States has, second to none, bar none, we have the best submarine fleet on the planet, period. They're nuclear, they're incredibly quiet. Everything that's done in the submarines is made in a way so they cannot be detected. But the Russian subs, especially since the Cold War ended, are these giant monstrosity, loud, clunking machines. They're incredibly loud. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make this really clear. Every single time a Russian sub leaves Russia, we have a nuclear sub tailing it. Every single time. So having their subs near us is status quo. It's the normal thing. It's always happening. We have the same thing. We have our nuclear subs off Russia's coast too. It's all part of this deterrence. So listen, guys, we need to keep our mindset on prepping. We need to focus on prepping and preparedness. Don't get caught up in all this fear stuff. Fear stuff from other channels and fear stuff from mainstream media saying, oh my gosh, we have Russian subs off our coast because they're going to Cuba. Of course we do. We always do. The ones Russia's showing you, that's not the ones you worry about. It's the ones under the water that you don't know about are the ones that conceivably we worry about. But again, I'm telling you right, we don't have to worry about those either because we absolutely have our subs tailing them. We have ways of shooting down their missiles too, by the way. Keep that in mind. So listen, guys, there's always going to be things happening. I really believe we're heading into World War III. I believe it's going to happen. And as we head there, we need to keep a level head. We need to prep. We need to continue to stockpile, have our things. We need to train, drill, and practice, and all these things. We need to do this without getting caught up in these little deception puppet show things saying, oh, look, there's more Russian ships and stuff, or a plane going over to Finland, for example, for the Finnish people. These things are always happening, and they always will happen. That's simply like Russia saying, look here, when basically the real action is happening here. So it doesn't matter, guys. Prep. Keep prepping. Don't get caught up in this stuff and keep level-headed. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.